Hello Algebra 1 students, this is Mr. Wilsey. In this video we're going to be looking at the Algebra 1 practice test. We are going to be trying out some different types of problems to help refresh your memory on how to do them to help prepare you for the end of course test, which is going to be early May. You need to have paper out in front of you, mostly to try to work out the problems ahead of me, but also if you need to take down notes on how to do them correctly. So, you got paper out? Do you really have paper out? Pause the video now and get some. Okay, this is what the Algebra 1 test will look like, except obviously it won't say practice. When you take it in May, it will be the real deal, worth 25% of your grade. Something to notice right here is that you will have access to this whole page. Remember your cheat sheet, your yellow best friend? This is it. You will have access to the whole thing during the test. So it would behoove you to know what is on this reference page so that you know that you don't have to memorize it or anything. Really nothing for this test you need to memorize. Okay, it is all here. Okay, so moving down to the meat of the matter, right about here we go. So let's start with looking at question number 1, right here. Go ahead and pause the video. Try and select the correct answer choice on your own. All right, so one strategy you could have used is the method that I taught you for factoring. Now remember that if you are asked to factor a quadratic expression like this one, that means to write it as a product of two binomials. Now, of course, all the answer choices are products of two binomials, so we need a way to figure out how to choose the second number in each binomial, right? Because it's going to start out with x in each binomial, right? That is how you factor using the shortcut method when there's an invisible 1 multiplying the x squared. But how do we pick what the second number is? Do you remember? Well, remember that we need to find the pair of numbers that will multiply to equal the last number, so the one without an x or an x squared. So what two numbers multiply to equal negative 54, and those same two numbers have to add up to equal the number multiplying the x, which is positive 15 in this case. So the two numbers that fulfill those two conditions would be negative 3 and positive 18. They multiply to equal negative 54, and they add up to equal positive 15. So that means the way to write the factored expression is x minus 3 times x plus 18, which means that the correct answer choice is C. Now, another way that you could have approached this problem is by working backwards. You could have taken any of these expressions, let's say A. So let's just have a thought bubble. If we wanted to test to see if A was correct, we could have started with A, x minus 9 times x plus 6, and we could have multiplied this out. For example, if you wanted to use FOIL, you could multiply the first, then the outside, then the inside, then the last two terms in each binomial. The first two terms multiplied together, x times x squared. Outside, it would be x times 6, which is 6x. Inside two terms is negative 9 times x. And then the last two terms would be negative 54. And then you could collapse the inner two x terms, which would be negative 3x minus 54. Okay, so you could have worked backwards by multiplying and checked to see if this is equal to your original expression. In this case, the middle term does not match the middle term over here, so A is not correct. All right, and you could have done a process of elimination like that to arrive at the correct answer. Right? That would have been a little bit more work on your part, but it would have worked. All right, so let's go ahead and look at number 2 now. I want you to pause the video and try to select the correct answer choice. Okay, so one strategy you might have applied is first draw a sketch of what's happening here. It always helps to have a visual of the problem. So that is negative 1, 3, and then over 5, up 7. Okay, so the line segment joining these 2 points kind of looks like this. And if we were to highlight the midpoint would be right about here. So just based on our graph, it looks like both the x value and the y value are going to be positive. Well, that doesn't really help us out because all of the x's and y's over here are positive. So how do we determine the exact coordinates of that midpoint? Well, if you needed to, you could refer back to your reference page, and there is contained therein the midpoint formula right here. You could have referred back to that to help you out. Now notice that the midpoint formula is just saying take the x coordinates and divide by 2. That will give you the x coordinate of the midpoint. And then do the same thing to find the y coordinate of the midpoint. So that's really what we're doing, right? We're taking the average of the x coordinates and the y coordinates. So let's apply that here. The x coordinate is going to be negative 1 plus 5 divided by 2. The y coordinate is going to be positive 3 plus 7 divided by 2. So that is going to be negative 1 plus 5 is positive 4. 3 plus 7 is 10. And that will turn into 2, 5. So that would be the coordinates of the midpoint. And that corresponds to letter choice F. So I hope that's a letter choice you picked. All right, number 3. Go ahead and try to select the correct answer choice for number 3 by pausing the video. Okay, this one is really easy. All you need to do is use a calculator. Make sure to type in the calculation correctly, and you will arrive at an answer of 1 over 20. All right, so that one is pretty straightforward. The answer choice is B. Okay, let's look at number 4 now. Go ahead and give this one a shot on your own. Okay, this one also requires you to use the calculator. So go ahead and grab one. And it said 4 squared divided by 2. Oops, you see that? I just messed up right there, how I typed it into the calculator. So you need to press the right button in order to divide by 2, and then plus x is again 4 times, then wrap the negative 2 in parentheses, that's the value of y, and then press enter, and then negative 24. Voila. So negative 24 is the correct answer choice. So I hope that that is the one that you picked right there. Okay, moving on to number 5. Go ahead and give number 5 a shot on your own as well. Okay, number 5 is another one that you can do in the calculator. I hope that what you did is you took all of these numbers. You'll notice that all these numbers just repeat, right? The same numbers are in each answer choice. Convert them all to decimal using your calculator. So for example, 13 divided by 8, you can use a calculator. 13 divided by 8, if you type it into your TI Inspire, it's going to give you back 13 divided by 8. Well, that's not helpful. So instead you take 13 divided by 8, then go to Menu, Number, Convert to Decimal. Then press Enter, 1.625. So that is how you can find the decimal equivalent of a fraction. And if you do that with all of them, and then make sure to read the directions, greatest to least. If you do that, you should conclude that D is the correct answer. Check me on that one. I just looked it up, but I think that D is correct. All right, now go ahead and look at number 6. For number 6, we are going to have to recall the relationship between ounces as a unit of weight and pounds. If you don't recall that off the top of your head, refer back to your reference page. Down at the bottom right are all of your conversions. So where's the conversion that we need? It looks like right here. 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. Okay, so let's just go ahead and bring that piece of information down here. 1 pound is 16 ounces. Now, technically, this is a train track type problem, but I think that you can reason through it without using train tracks. Try this. If 8 ounces cost this much, and we want to know the price per pound, that means we want to know the price per 16 ounces, which is twice the amount that we have. So, using the concept of proportionality, all you need to do is multiply that number by 2 in order to get the price per pound. 429 times 2 is going to be 858. Okay, that many dollars per pound. And voila, the answer choice is J. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 7 now. There we go. Look at number 7 on the left there. Okay, in number 7, we're given kind of this weird graph that indicates the number of free throws that Jerry makes during each game for a series of 6 different games. Now the question is, if we are looking at game 7 now, how many free throws could Jerry make that we could consider that number an outlier? So this word outlier means that it stands alone. It stands apart from the rest of the data. I hope that this one is pretty intuitive to you, even if you've never seen this word outlier in a mathematical context. What I would recommend you do is just plot each of the numbers. 3 would be right here, 4 would be right here, 8 would be right here, and 12 would be up here. Now, which of these numbers appears to lie outside of the given data? Well, I hope it's pretty clear that it's 12, right? 12 is way up here. So if in game 7, Jerry all of a sudden makes 12 free throws, you'd think that, I don't know, maybe he's doping or something, something crazy is going on. Or he's just got a really hot hand that night, okay? So that is the concept of an outlier. All right, now go ahead and look at number 8. Number 8 is pretty straightforward. We're just adding 2 polynomials. There is a plus sign in the middle here, so we don't need to change the signs over here like we would need to do if that was a minus sign instead. We are just adding, which makes things nice. So let's first of all look at each of the like terms. So m cubed. Are there any other m cubes that we can combine with a 5m cubed? Well, no, there's not. So we know that our final answer is going to have 5m cubed in it. All right, now let's look at the m squareds. We have an m squared here and an m squared here. We're adding them together. Notice that this is 2 over here, and this is an invisible 1. So 2m squared plus 1m squared gives 3m squared. So that is the next term. Notice that already we can mark out answer choices H and J. Okay, now let's look at the m's. Negative m plus 4m. Remember, this is an invisible negative 1. So negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. So the m term is going to be positive 3m. And then finally we have a minus 2 that's hanging out. So I hope that was pretty easy for you. The correct answer choice is G. All right, now let's go ahead and look at number 9. Which expression is closest to this? Well, this is going to be another job for your calculator. You could do it by hand, but really just go ahead and use a calculator. So it said 9.06 times 10 to the negative fifth, in parentheses, times 0.022 times 10 to the positive 23rd equals. All right, now how in the world do we read this? Let's try to round it. 5.46, and then the E19 means times 10 to the positive 19th. So 5.46 times 10 to the 19. Which answer choice does that match with? Well, it is obviously D, right there. All right, let's go ahead and finish up this video with number 10. Go ahead and try to solve number 10. This is probably the most difficult one that we've looked at so far, but it is also the topic that we've studied most recently, rational expressions. So, when we are asked to simplify a rational expression, remember a rational expression is a fraction that has a polynomial on top and a polynomial on bottom, like we have here. When we're asked to simplify these guys, there are two main steps. First step, factor. Second step, cancel. All right, so let's do the first step, factoring. Now we have a quadratic on top and a quadratic on bottom, which means the factored form is going to look like this. Two sets of parentheses multiplied together on top and two sets of parentheses multiplied together on bottom. All right, let's look at the top. First of all, x squared minus x minus 6. So how in the world do we factor that? Well, we can use the shortcut. So there's going to be an x here and an x here. Now what two numbers multiply to equal negative 6 and add to equal negative 1? Well, I hope that you said negative 3 and positive 2. So up here is the correct factored form for the top. Now let's look at the bottom. Now what do you notice is different about the bottom? Well, we cannot use the shortcut now because of this dang 2. We're going to have to factor it the long way. So 2x squared plus x minus 6. Let's factor this the long way. Remember, the way to factor this the long way is to, first of all, multiply the first number and the last number. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Now we are going to make up a list of factor pairs of negative 12. And we're going to try to find the factor pair that adds up to equal invisible positive 1. So 1 negative 12 multiplied to equal negative 12. Ta-da. 2 and negative 6, negative 2 positive 6, positive 3, negative 4, negative 3 positive 4. Well, which one of these pairs of numbers adds up to the positive 1? Well, it's this pair right here. These guys add up to equal positive 1. So the way that we continue on with this method is to say, all right, now let's split up the middle term, negative 3x plus 4x. Everything else stays the same. So we're going to have a minus 6 out back and a 2x squared out front. Okay, you see how I did that? The only thing I did is I split x into negative 3x plus 4x. Okay, so now let's continue with this. Let's focus on just the first two terms. We want to identify the GCF, the greatest common factor of the first two terms. The greatest common factor is just an x. So we're going to factor that out. Leaves us with 2x minus 3 inside of parentheses. Good. Now let's focus on the last two terms, 4x minus 6. What's the GCF? Positive 2. And when we factor that out, we're left with 2x minus 3 again. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3. This is a common binomial, so we factor that out. 2x minus 3 times x plus 2. And voila! This right here is our factored form for the bottom of the fraction. So I'm going to take this guy and bring him back up here. Voila. All right, so we have successfully done the first step of simplifying this rational expression. We have factored. Yippee. Now let's cancel. So it looks like there's an x plus 2 at the top and an x plus 2 on the bottom, so we can cancel those out, leaving us with this right here. So which answer choice is the correct simplified form? Answer choice H. That matches what is left over after we get done canceling. Thank you for watching. I think now you are ready to start working in the practice problems that are very similar to the ones that we just studied. The PDF will look something like this. Go ahead and get started, and then type your answers into the appropriate place wherever Mr. Wilsey asks you to, and good luck.